Yes, you sitting there listening with fire, quietly building in your heart. Well, have you ever wondered what truly separates the average from the extraordinary? Not in wealth alone, nor in talent, nor in luck. The great secret, the eternal truth, is that it lies in how they think. The top 1% do not possess magic. They are not anointed by the heavens. They have simply learned to master their minds, to discipline their thought, with the same precision a sculptor uses to carve out marble. Well, it begins with definiteness of purpose. Well, years ago, I sat with Andrew Carnegie, one of the richest men in the world at the time. He leaned toward me and said, "Napoleon, the mind must be given a target so big and so definite that it becomes a magnet to the soul." The top 1% never walk through life aimlessly. They do not drift. They do not wait for signs. They decide what they want, decide who they are, decide what they'll give to get there. They build that image in their mind until it burns like a brand across every thought they have. And then they move forward. Why? Well, because they understand the second great key: thoughts become things. Well, your mind, dear listener, is the workshop of the gods. What you plant, you shall harvest. What you dwell upon, you will bring into being. The top 1% don't simply wish. They visualize, concentrate, believe, and then act. They know that a thought backed by belief, driven by emotion, and fueled with action becomes inevitable reality. Oh, Leo, but here's where most fall. Fear. The masses are paralyzed by it. Fear of failure, fear of criticism, fear of poverty, but not the 1%. They feel fear just as you do, but they have trained themselves to act in spite of it, like the captain who sails through a storm. Eyes fixed on the horizon, they move through terror and keep moving. Fear to them is not a stop sign, it's a challenge, a call to prove worth. And they do so with a rare trait: self-discipline. They are not ruled by moods or circumstances. They rise when it's still dark. They read when others scroll. They invest when others spend. They say no 1,000 times for the one yes that matters. Their minds are like trained animals, obedient, focused, sharp. They have forged habits with the fire of repetition, habits that serve rather than sabotage. Well, but what seals their legacy is one thing above all: persistence. They do not stop. When they hit a wall, they don't turn back. They go through, over, around, or they dig beneath. While the world complains and waits for the perfect time, the 1% build, fail, rebuild. They embrace the pain. They even welcome it. For they know that beyond every failure lies a lesson, and beyond every lesson is the prize. Ellie, my friend, you are not here by accident. You were meant to hear this. While the top 1% are not better than you, they have simply learned how to think differently. So I ask you, not tomorrow, not next week, now, will you dare to think as they do? Will you command your mind as a master commands his servant? Will you persist until the world can no longer ignore you? Eddie, because once you do, you won't be able to go back. And the world, my friend, will never be the same again. It begins with definiteness of purpose. If you study every man or woman who has risen from the dust of obscurity to the peak of influence, you will find, without exception, a blazing torch at the core of their journey, a clear, definite purpose. Not a vague wish, not a half-hearted hope, but a definite, burning wire that drives them from dawn until the day's final breath. When I sat with Andrew Carnegie, he told me something that pierced deeper than any lecture or book I had encountered. He said, "Young man, success begins the moment you decide exactly what you want and commit your entire soul to getting it. At the time, I thought I understood, but I didn't. Not really. Not until I began meeting men like Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, Alexander Graham Bell, men whose minds were fixed like steel traps on one outcome. Men who had one obsession, not a dozen distractions. A definiteness of purpose is the North Star of achievement. Without it, even the most brilliant mind will waste away, wandering in circles. The majority of people you see fail not because they lacked potential, but because they lacked direction. They drifted, they dabbled, they waited, they reacted, and in doing so, they surrendered their lives to chance. And now, so the top 1%, those rare few who rise above the fog, do something radically different. They make a decision, and once they do not look back. Their purpose becomes the ruling thought of their life, the central fire around which every idea, every decision, every action is warmed and made clear. Now, let me tell you a truth that may shock you. The mind, when given a specific target, begins to operate like a guided missile. It filters out distraction, it sharpens focus, it awakens energy reserves you didn't even know existed. It draws in people, ideas, and circumstances that align with. The second key to the way the top 1% think is this. Thoughts become things. This is not poetry. This is not philosophy wrapped in metaphor. This is reality. It is a universal truth, as dependable as the rising sun or the tide pulled by the moon. Every fortune ever made, every building ever built, every empire ever constructed began first as a thought in the mind of one individual. Many years ago, I sat across from Thomas Edison. He told me plainly, I never failed once. I just found 10,000 ways that wouldn't work, but the vision in my mind was too clear to abandon. Think of that. 10,000 attempts, and still he moved forward because the image in his mind was as vivid and real to him as the world outside his window. The top 1% are guardians of their thought. They treat the mind as sacred ground because they know that every idea, every belief, every mental image planted there becomes the foundation upon which their life is built. Where most people allow doubt to sneak in and take root, the great minds plant belief. Where the average person entertains failure, they dwell only on vision, on victory, on creation. Daily thought, when mixed with faith, becomes power. But thought, when mixed with fear, becomes destruction. The top 1% have trained themselves to choose what they allow in. They know that a single idea, charged with emotion and backed by action, can change the course of their destiny. Well, you see, your subconscious mind does not argue. It does not question. It accepts whatever you impress upon it, whether it is belief or disbelief, wealth or poverty, courage or cowardice. The moment you begin to repeat an idea, to feel it, to see it, to act in harmony with it, your inner world begins to mold your outer world. Circumstances bend, opportunities appear. People are drawn to you. I once heard a man complain, I can't catch a break. And I told him plainly, that's because you've been rehearsing failure in your mind so often that you've made it your profession. He looked stunned, but it was the truth. If you see yourself as small, unworthy, or incapable, life will reflect that back to you in every mirror. Daily, but the 1%, they see themselves as builders, as creators. They imagine the result in such detail that it begins to move them emotionally. And emotion is what gives thought its power. A cold idea is just a flicker, but a thought set on fire by belief becomes a flame no obstacle can extinguish. Oh, this is why you must take control of your thinking. Daily, relentlessly. The mind left unattended becomes overgrown with weeds. worry, doubt, distraction. That the mind that is cultivated, that is fed visions of victory, that is sharpened with intention, that mind becomes a magnet. Oh, and what it magnetizes is not by chance. It's by law. The third key to the thinking of the top 1% is this: they have mastered fear. Not by eliminating it, but by commanding it. Oh, let us be honest, as brutally honest as a mirror under sunlight. Fear lives in every man and woman. It is the silent thief of dreams. It is the invisible chain that binds even the strongest. Fear of failure, fear of criticism, fear of poverty, fear of standing alone. These fears are not born of reality. They are born of imagination poisoned by doubt. I have seen brilliant minds full of promise wither under the weight of fear. I have seen men with genius, resources, and opportunity fall behind those who had only one advantage: the courage to act in spite of fear. That is the secret of the top 1%. They do not wait for fear to vanish before they move. They do not require the absence of uncertainty before they leap. No, they feel the fear rise in their chest, and they step forward anyway. The average man hears the whispers of doubt and listens. The great man hears the same whispers and replies, "I am not ruled by you. Do not be mistaken. The top 1% are not fearless. They are trained. They have conditioned their minds to interpret fear not as a stop sign, but as a signal: go further, get stronger." You are now entering the realm where most people quit. And that is precisely why they persist. I recall an interview with a man who had built a global business empire from nothing. He said to me, fear was the gatekeeper at every level. At every stage, something inside me said, this might not work. Clap. But I knew that if I listened too long, I'd turn back. So I ran toward the very thing that terrified me. That is the essence of mastery, not avoidance, not denial, but dominion over the emotion that enslaves the masses. Oh, they understand this. Fear feeds on inaction. The longer you wait, the louder it grows. The moment you move, however small the step, it weakens. And the more you act in the face of it, the more power you reclaim. Fear cannot survive a mind that moves forward with purpose. Now imagine the difference between a man who makes decisions from fear and one who makes decisions from vision. The first sees danger in every opportunity. The second sees, oh, poor a slack, quality.